Hi everyone, this video is going to show you black spot disease on roses and what I do to treat it. Last summer I grew a few different varieties of shrub roses from bare roots, and I didn't spray any of my roses when winter arrived. So today, February 15th, I'm here to show you what can happen to your roses in a non-spray garden. But first, let me show you some of the rose varieties that I grew last year. So now let's take a look at which variety got affected the most out of all my roses. So we're gonna go from the most severe to the least, and let's start with this variety right here. This is Shirley Bouquet, which was the white rose that you saw earlier in the video. Out of all the roses, this one is hit the worst. As you could see, there are black spots everywhere on the leaves, and I have two of these roses on both sides of my patio, and they both were just as badly affected. So that's the one on the right side, and let me just show you real quick another one on the left from the same variety. It's hit just as bad. So this one, I would say Shirley Bouquet is not quite disease resistant in my area anyway, compared to some of my other roses that I have. The next one that I would like to show you is Olivia Rose Austin by David Austin. In my opinion, this is a very healthy rose, pretty vigorous growth, nice and healthy leaves in the summer. Right now, it's like majority of the leaves are, like infected with black spots and some yellowing, and there are some dead leaves on there. But I still would say that it's not that bad in terms of it being affected. But out of all my 8 roses, I would rank this still in like the bottom half. This one is Princess Alexandra of Kent. It's a very healthy rose as well. Very long canes, upright growth. I see some dead leaves on here, but I think that's pretty common after like some pretty harsh winter that we had. In terms of black spot, I don't see a whole lot. Maybe some, but very, very few leaves that are affected. So I would say Princess Alexandra of Kent is one of the healthy roses for sure. Actually, all of the David Austin roses that I have, they generally do really well. This is Le Petit Prince. This rose is a very healthy rose. The blooms were gorgeous. It's like pink lavender blooms. I see very little black spots on here, almost none. But if I go lower, like towards the lower branches, you'll see that a lot of the leaves down below got more infected compared to the leaves up top. And I think it's because the spores of the fungus, they stay in ground, and like when rain falls or like when you water your plant, it has potential to splash up or spring up and infect the parts of the lower leaves, like these guys, for example. So that is Le Petit Prince. Next one coming up is Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl is a very healthy plant. This is the one from David Austin as well. It when it was growing and blooming in the summer, it was really glorious. As you're looking at the leaves now, there are some black spots. Like it's a minor infection, I think. So this is kind of like strange because the top leaves, which you'll see here in a second, they get more infected compared to the lower leaves, which I'm not sure why. There. But I don't like it doesn't look to me like black spot. Maybe it's just dead leaves or leaves that are getting ready to fall off the branch. But in terms of health, I would say Roald Dahl is a very healthy, vigorous shrub. Next one coming up is Carding Mill. Carding Mill has one of the most gorgeous blooms, gorgeous color that I've ever seen. In terms of black spot, it is not as bad either. One of the healthy ones, but it also shed a majority of its leaves in the fall. Unlike Roald Dahl, it kind of kept majority of its leaves. But here you can see for yourself, very little black spot infection going on with Carding Mill. So one of the healthier ones for sure. Carding Mill and Roald Dahl are both situated towards like the north side of my house, and they're in containers kind of like farther away from the yard and from like the rough kind of we had a little bit of a rough winter. We had like almost a 2-week period of freeze, hard freeze, and they came out looking really good, I would say. Now this is Desdemona. Desdemona is another one of those shrubs that lost all of its leaves, not all, but like most of its leaves, and so they're not like badly infected by black spot. And I think that's one of the preventions that I will do this year. So last year I didn't do anything to my roses at all. Like I didn't even come out and like deadhead some of them. But this year, like in the fall time, I'm gonna come out and like remove majority of the leaves, and I think that might help prevent black spot. Now this is Harlow Carr, you guys. It was originally in a container, and I moved it because this is a very thorny rose, and it was kind of located in an area where I walked by a lot, and I just didn't want to have a thorny rose in there, so I moved it toward the front of the house, and during the transplant, it lost all of its leaves, so I can't tell if it's infected or not, but I don't think so. So for me, what I could do now, and I think it's my only choice really, is to come out here and remove all of the infected leaves by hand, which I'm going to do that today, and I'm going to get rid of all of the leaves. According to what I've read, you cannot or you should not leave the infected leaves lying around in the ground, because that's how like the fungal spores will stay there, and it will overwinter. Like it will live on pretty much, and it has a potential to spray back up or splash back up when you water your plants, and it will continue on the infection. So the best bet is to get rid of everything and come out with a clean pruner, and also prune the part of the stems that are infected as well. So that is going to be my gardening task of the day. For me right now, it is mid to late winter, and temperature is warming up every day. So it's time to inspect some of my plants. Maybe not do like pruning right away because it's still winter. I'm probably gonna wait a few weeks, but it's good to come out and start removing the infected leaves. So black spot. Let's talk a little bit about black spot. So black spot is not a deadly disease in my opinion. If you can spot it early and treat it early, it'll be fine. Most roses will usually once or twice in their lifetime develop black spot, and sometimes they can tolerate black spot just fine on their own, although you will still want to inspect your plants every now and then and see if it's infected, because if it's left untreated, it can significantly weaken rose plants as a whole and make your plants become susceptible to many other diseases and or pests that eventually will lead to the demise of the plant. So yeah, I think for me it's more of like an aesthetic problem more so than a serious disease. So once the leaves are infected, there's no cure, but there are a few things you could do to prevent black spot from occurring. The first and probably the best thing you could do for your roses is to give them good growing conditions, like well-draining soil, good airflow, or good air circulation, for example. In my case, I've done all of that. I make sure I give good air circulation in between my roses, and I give it good well-draining soil. But what I could not control is the weather. I'm gardening in zone 8. My winter is pretty wet and cold. It's damp all the time because it rains a lot here, which is great growing conditions for the fungal disease that is black spot. And so that is one of the things I can't control. And even if your roses are healthy in the summer, they may still develop black spot during the winter. All of my roses that you see here, whether they're in containers or in ground, they are kind of out in the open, which means they get rained on all the time, and sometimes it doesn't dry out in between rains and stuff. And sometimes like it's wet like overnight here too. So I think it's very common for my roses to develop black spot. So I'm not like freaking out or anything. I'm just coming out here removing all the dead and diseased leaves and stems. But another prevention that you may choose to do is to spray your roses with commercial or homemade sprays. As for me, I'm probably going to leave that as the last resort because I just haven't come across a spraying solution that I like or that I feel comfortable with. But one of the things that I will do this year though is come out here in the fall or after the blooming cycle, or when we're getting ready to go into winter, is to come out here and remove the leaves myself by hand, and to like see what happens in the next spring. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I'm also planning on getting a few more of David Austin roses. Now, is that a lot of work to come out here and treat everything by hand, just sit here and removing the leaves? It probably is a lot of work, but it's also something I enjoy doing. It's kind of like my pastime activity, so I really enjoy that. So I'm gonna do that, and we'll see what happens. We'll play it by ear. I might have to resort to spraying in the future, but I will see. Mulch can also help prevent the spread of the disease. You can apply a layer of mulch around the plant, and this will prevent the soil from splashing up onto the plant. And if there are any spores that are present in the soil, it'll help prevent the spread of the fungus as well. So mulching is always a good idea. Also, there's another drastic measure that I read about and I almost decided to do, and that is to get rid of your diseased rose. Like I thought about getting rid of my Shirley bouquet just now and replacing it with disease-resistant cultivars, but I thought hard about it, and I decided to give her another chance, because who knows, like I'm going to remove all the leaves and maybe she'll come back like stronger and better, and if she doesn't, maybe this year or the next I will start replacing the rose. So there are a lot of roses that are highly resistant to this disease. Like for example, like I've had really good experience with David Austin roses, so for them I can vouch for, although not all of the varieties, because I've only had 6 so far. But Le Petit Prince is not a David Austin rose, and it's a very healthy rose. Like this one that I'm removing the dead leaves off of here. This is La Petite Prince, and this is also a very healthy rose. So it's kind of like hit or miss, I guess. Like you would have to try it and see what happens. But for me, like I said, I'm still gonna keep my Shirley bouquet and see how she does this summer, and then we'll judge her from there. But yeah, those are some preventive measures that you can take. Let's recap. Give it a good growing condition, well draining soil, good airflow. If you water your rose, try not to wet the leaves, especially like if you water in the evenings, and try not to water your roses late in the evenings because it may not dry overnight and you're providing a good condition for the fungal disease to develop at that point. So good growing conditions, and you will want to give it good mulching around the base of the plant. Once the growing season is done, you want to come out and check your plants and remove the dead or diseased leaves before we go into winter. And also, if you choose to spray, there are so many solutions that you can choose from, both commercial or organic or homemade. The internet has a lot of solutions for you to go and look at. And if all else fails, you can also check out that plant and replace it with a new, better and stronger variety. So that is all about black spot and what I've learned about black spot so far. Thank you for watching, you guys, and I hope your roses are super healthy and very happy this year and the next. Happy gardening, y'all. Bye.